So I've cut with an X-Acto knife a few pages, and in sets of 3 we're going to create signatures of our book. A signature is, a set of pages usually stitched in little groups and then eventually put together, each signature, into a full book. That's a little bit of like bookbinding 101. What I'm hoping to do is have these books be about 1 inch wide by 2 inches high. So using your cutting board and a ruler, and using sets of 3, so I've got 3 pages here, 1, 2, 3, and cut a strip. Bottom is the edge, but I think I am. And your cutting mat has really great rules on it. This one's from Olfa. And just cut a strip. Be very careful with that X-Acto knife. Yeah, you know what? Let's make them 1.5 inches wide. That seems like a good size. So that means we want it to, you're going to cut a piece of paper that's about 3, because you're going to divide it in half to make the book. So here you are. Alright, so it's 2 inches high, it's 3 inches wide, so that when we cut it, not cut it, but fold it, it's going to be our finished size of 1.5 by 2. Now, this is a signature, right? Now you're going to create quite a few of these. And depending on how many signatures you have is going to be how thick the book is going to be. Okay, so once you get going and you cut, you have some efficiencies with your cutting so that you can cut once down and then just kind of groove along with your horizontal cuts. So save your extra paper, because you might want to create smaller books, different size books. So I kind of set those aside. Some of the longer strips I'm going to probably do another ornament that I'm going to show you in a little bit. So I created eight signatures, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to put them next to each other. That's how thick that's going to be. And what you're going to do is you're going to bind them together. And you're going to use a little bit of watered down Elmer's glue or Mod Podge, which is what you usually use for paper crafts. Dab it on nice and thick. Put it on some paper, and if you'd like, put that weight back on it. And let it sit. You're going to let that sit for a couple hours, and then you might need another coat. Alright, so this has been drying overnight, and as you can see the signatures are sticking together, but just to be safe, I'm also going to thread some embroidery floss. This is just a simple white floss. And I'm going to hold the edge, see this the beginning, and I'll kind of set it right here on the spine. And I'm going to wrap string in between each signature. The center of the next one. We're going to take it around. And what you're doing is you're binding in the other pages that aren't necessarily glued, because you don't want them to fall out while they're hanging on your tree. There's the next one. And around. Alright, so you can see you got a bunch of strings here. Each signature is bound nice and tight. And now to seal it all up, you're going to put another layer of glue or Mod Podge along, and then let it sit. Now you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, this takes so long, which is why you probably want to assembly line this a little bit, meaning, you get a bunch cut, you get a bunch glued, you wait 24 hours, and then you get a bunch tied, let them sit again. I'm just showing you how to do one. So, I would, when I really get cranking here, I'm going to have
Before we do that, because these are ornaments, I want to be able to hang them on the tree. And a nice and seamless way to do that is to put ribbon in here or string, whatever you want to use to hang them, and put them in between the book binding and the cover right here along the spine. So grab a little Mod Podge again. Mod Podge is key to this whole project, really. And you're going to put another coat along the spine. And you're going to have whatever it is you're going to use. I'm using some nice bright red ribbon because I have a lot of red in my little library. Like that. And you're going to let that sit a little bit before we get going. We're in the home stretch of our mini bookmaking ornaments. What you need now is some cardstock. And cardstock that you can, not cardstock like really heavy stuff that you can't bend, making this long strip of cover 3 3/4 inches. Why? To accommodate the spine and to give a little bit of overlap on your edge. It just gives you some room to play. The worst thing you want in these books is to have something small, too small, where I'm seeing the inside of this. It looks sloppy. So we want to see a nice clean cover. And we're going to score this. So you find your center mark first. And then you go 3/8 to one side, 2, 3, and you score. How am I scoring? Do you see what I'm doing here? I'm finding the back edge of the X-Acto knife. Not the cutting part, the back part. And I just lightly, very lightly, go along the edge. Then I go back to my center. And I go 3/8 the other way. And I do a light score. Very light. You can see, well, I don't know if you can see. Let's see if I can. You've broken the paper a little bit so that it'll fold for you. See? Look at that. You got your spine. Then I like to kind of gently bend, get the paper fiber to kind of start loosening up a little bit for you. There you go. Do a check. Check it out. Pretty nice. So, after you do your measuring, your scoring, you're going to glue. I glue this. I don't glue this. You could do either or, figure out what works for you. Maybe do a practice one before you figure out your process. And I nestle it in. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that first page and I'm going to just kind of push it in. I'm going to take the other page, that first page, and treat it almost like a fly leaf. It's not going to be even, kids. It's okay. See what I'm doing? I'm just getting that in there. Next, use your finger and push along the spine so you know that some of that spine's getting glued in there too. There you are. Ta-da! Now some fun stuff. You can get really decorative with this. Take two. So I ended up cutting some paper triangles. Here, here, there, and there. But they don't ever quite fit right. So what I like doing is actually painting over them. And what's cool is you can neaten stuff up, but it also has that edge, so it feels dimensional. But you don't have to rely on the paper to kind of, I don't know, it's just a way of neatening stuff up. But I do like the pop of red on there, so I grabbed some red acrylic paint I happen to have. And I'm just going to paint gently with a steady hand over this and kind of neaten up the edges a little bit. Do you see what I'm doing there? You know how it was a little off kilter and not quite meeting the edge? You can clean this up now with paint. So, with a steady hand, paint some strips across on the cover or the spine. Alright, so I'm starting to put a coat of Mod Podge, this is high gloss glaze, across the top of the cover. It just kind of finishes it off, makes it sturdy and shiny, and make it look like a real book. We're going across the whole thing. You can use a brush, you can use a sponge brush. Just do it evenly. Okay, this has been drying. While that's drying, I grabbed some red embroidery floss, and I'm going to set it. If you recall on like old books, there's always a little bit of gold or red along the top of this. Trim the edges. And put a little bit more glue on top. Like so. Gold would work too, and gold might look even more festive for Christmas, but at any rate, you know. And like I said, if you use gold and then you paint gold along your pages, that could look pretty cool too. So, that's it. I mean, honestly, I'm going to put another coat of this Mod Podge gloss on top. It's still wet in areas, but it's generally dry enough to put another coat on. So I'm going to put another coat on and let it sit. And meanwhile, I'm going to get the library Christmas tree out and set up so we can start putting all of our pretty ornaments on it. And we get to see what we got.